morning, fellow classmates. If you're like most Americans and myself, you like to start your morning routine with a good cup of hot coffee. In fact, according to Harvard School of Public Health, the US alone spends more than $40 billion on coffee each year. That's an average of 3 cups a day. But while drinking that cup of coffee, have you ever thought to yourself where the coffee came from? Or how it came about? Or what it even is? Well, first of all, to understand coffee and its history, we must understand the process from tree to cup. So now that you have an idea of what coffee is, let me take you on a little journey, an adventure on how one bean changed the world. According to the National Coffees Association's article on the history of coffee, it all began when a goat herder from Ethiopia noticed that his goats would get hyperactive after eating these unknown red cherries. The herder then reported his findings to monks in a local monastery, and whom began to use the coffee fruit as a tea to get them through their evening prayers, much like how we use it to get through our days. Even though Ethiopia may have initially discovered coffee, its potential wasn't truly recognized until the 14th century by Arabians. They began marketing and cultivating coffee for local Arabic countries, which set a new standard for what the coffee bean meant. However, with its magical properties and it being a substitute for alcohol because the Quran religion forbade it, it began to breed reluctance to trade with foreign countries. Until the 17th century, of course, when the European travelers brought home tales of its taste and its uniqueness. And so, much like the Black Plague, it spread to all corners of Europe in no time at all. But this new dark black beverage began to erupt opponents who were overly cautious and uttered that it was the bitter invention of Satan. The controversy was so great that Pope Clement VIII was asked to intervene, and according to the Catholic gentleman's article, Blessed Beans, he without hesitation drank a cup and was so delighted he stated, "The devil's drink is delicious. We should cheat the devil by baptizing him." And so the coffee bean was born yet again in a new light, one accepted by all of Europe and Great Britain, which started a chain of events that would eventually make its way to New York, or as it was once called, New Amsterdam of the New World. But see, the New World favored tea until King George imposed heavy taxes on it in 1773. Shortly after, a revolt we know as the Boston Tea Party forever changed our drinking preference to coffee. But coffee was too expensive to drink for leisure at the time. It was only used for medicinal purposes until 1793, when New York opened its first coffee roaster and introduced wholesale beans to the local taverns and hotels. Despite the lack of ability to keep the beans fresh in its musty, damp wooden chip flavor, the coffee industry in lower Manhattan grew exponentially until the coffee crash of 1881. When coffee started making a turn for the better in the market, coffee standards were set in place, making only the best quality coffee available to consumers, and the early advancements of technology, such as steamships and packaging, made it more available. As quoted from the Coffee Chronicles by Alison Hemler, coffee morphed into a beverage which could be accessible to those outside the wealthy class and still taste good. The coffee industry continued to expand until after World War II, when it was hindered by cheaper, lower quality Robusta beans from Africa. Companies trying to cut costs marketed the inferior product to be more functional rather than enjoyable. Luckily, Pan American Coffee Bureau was created to promote Central American coffee, which was popularized in 1950 by a lot of different advertisements. And so in 1970, the birth of one special coffee house in Seattle, Washington, would reinvent coffee today as we know it. The coffee house is none other than Starbucks. What initially started out as a bean roaster eventually transformed into an Italian style coffee bar, which aimed to extend not only coffee, but the home, bringing the community into the coffee house. Today, according to Statista Statistics Portal, there are more than 52,000 coffee establishments in the US, and that number is expected to grow exponentially within the next few years, making coffee one of the most profitable industries in America. Without a doubt, coffee has came a long way from its initial discovery in Ethiopia. From Arabia to Europe and Great Britain to the New World, despite the many different cultures, we all have managed to find a little bit of peace in just a little bean known as coffee. So the next time you pour yourself a cup of joe, remember big things come in small sizes, and one little coffee bean can change the world. Thank you.